They tried to kill him twice. And not just anyone, the sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and who confirmed it? Not some anonymous source, not some internet rumor. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on live television just dropped a truth bomb that should have stopped the world in its tracks. Iran plotted 2 separate assassination attempts on President Trump, and the media barely blinked. But while Iran was planning to take out the commander-in-chief, what was the American left doing? Well, they were out in the streets, screaming "No Kings," protesting the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary, mocking our flag, and accusing Trump of being an authoritarian for celebrating the country that made him a target. Now, think about that, right? The man who's literally hunted by foreign terrorists is called a dictator by people waving resist signs in cities protected by the very army that they spit on. So in today's video, I want to go ahead and break down exactly what Benjamin Netanyahu said, why President Trump was the target, how the media is burying this story, and how the same people who preach democracy dies in darkness are quietly applauding an assassination attempt on a US president just because it was Trump. Now stick with me, guys, because what I'm about to show you guys, this will prove that this is not just political hypocrisy, this is national betrayal. If you appreciate the daily news updates, all I ask is that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. So let's talk about what should have been the top story of every front page, every news alert, every press room briefing across America. Donald J. Trump, the sitting president of the United States, was the target of not one, but 2 separate foreign-backed assassination attempts. And no, this is not some conspiracy. This is not some opinion. This wasn't leaked by some anonymous senior official behind, hiding behind some paywall. This actually came from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's a head of state, speaking on the record on international television in the middle of a live war. He didn't hesitate. He didn't mince words. He said it plainly. Iran tried to assassinate President Trump twice through proxies and intelligence operations. He is enemy number 1 to them. Enemy number 1. Think about that, guys. Iran didn't just disagree with Trump. They didn't just protest him at the UN. They wanted him dead. And now, because Trump did the one thing that globalist tyrants can't stand, he stood up to them without fear, without apology, if you think about it. And without sending them pallets of taxpayer cash. He shredded Obama's Iran nuclear deal. He cut off their funding, not just politically, but financially. He hit them right in the wallet where it hurts. And then he did the unthinkable. He ordered the strike that killed Qasem Soleimani, the terrorist mastermind responsible for the deaths of over 600 American service members. That moment, that one action, didn't just humiliate Iran. It proved that Trump wasn't just another paper-pushing politician in a red tie. He was a commander-in-chief who actually defended American lives. Iran took that personally, and that's when the plotting began. Now, according to Netanyahu, their intelligence services were mobilized. Their proxies were greenlit. Their target, President Donald J. Trump, and not once, twice. So here's where it gets even deeper. To radical regimes like Iran, Trump didn't just represent resistance. He represented sovereign power, the kind that they only understand in the form of a king or a supreme leader. He was unpredictable. He was aggressive. He acted unilaterally. And worst for them, he followed through on his threats. So when Trump said Iran will not get a nuclear weapon, they believed him because they feared him. They didn't see him as a negotiator. They saw him as a modern day Cyrus with air superiority, a monarch of military dominance, somebody who would not only say never again, but then enforce it with American firepower if necessary. So that's kind of what made him dangerous. That is why they had to try and take him out. That's what's truly terrifying about this. So while Iran saw a powerful leader worthy of elimination, the American left saw a tyrant and treated him like one. So let's pause here, because while this revelation was unfolding, while Netanyahu was confirming that our president had been marked for death by a foreign regime, what were thousands of Americans doing here at home? Well, they weren't rallying around the flag. They weren't calling for justice. They weren't even acknowledging the threat. No, they were out in the streets shouting, "No Kings," accusing Trump of being an authoritarian for daring to honor the U.S. military. Can you feel the whiplash yet? Because in just a second, I'm going to show you how those same protesters, the ones accusing President Trump of tyranny, are doing it under the protection of the very military that they claim he's trying to weaponize. Guys, we're going to expose the breathtaking historical ignorance that it takes to scream about kings while the only man standing between America and real tyranny is dodging foreign hitmen. So you don't have to take our word for it, guys. Just listen to the people who've already called. Amy Best, she was one of them. She said, "Ron, I called chapter. Thank you so much. And Barbara Bertusky, she followed up with, chapter is great. Please look into it. You won't regret it. Hey guys, this is the kind of impact that chapter has made on people every single day. And I'm so thankful for those comments that have come in that I was able to read and share to you guys that were on previous videos. They're not selling plans. They're solving problems, from comparing Medicare option to making sure that your doctors are covered and your prescriptions are affordable. Guys, chapter is in your corner. The best part, their help is completely free. You will never pay a dime to speak with a licensed advisor. Give our friends at chapter a call. Phone number is 909-563-8279 or visit askchapter.org/Ron. Real people, real savings, real peace of mind. Call today and see why the reviews just keep pouring in, guys. So let's talk about the absolute insanity that's happening right here at home, because while missiles fly over Tel Aviv and, foreign powers are caught plotting to assassinate our president, there's a different kind of madness that's happening on American soil right now. People marching through the streets, holding cardboard signs scribbled in Sharpies, screaming into megaphones, "We don't want a king." Trump's acting like a dictator. Authoritarian display, military propaganda. Guys, I'm talking about the No King protests, the ones that erupted across multiple cities this past week during what should have been a moment of national unity. So here's what set them off. President Trump, on the 250th birthday of the United States Army, held a patriotic military tribute on the National Mall. Fireworks over the Washington Monument, veterans honored, real soldiers featured in video segments, drone displays, robot dog tech, a salute to the military that's protected us for 2.5 centuries. And what did the activist left say? Fascism, cult of personality. He thinks he's a monarch. You can't make this stuff up, guys. The same military that has fought and bled to ensure that we never have a king is now demonized as a political weapon because Trump showed them respect. It wasn't a campaign rally. It wasn't a political fundraiser. It was a military celebration. But because it came from Trump, the outrage machine basically kicked in the full gear. You know how they do. So let me break this down very clearly for you. The United States Army was literally founded to overthrow monarchy. It exists because brave men back in 1775 picked up rifles and said, "We will not be ruled by a king." We do not have a monarch today because those men and millions since stood up and fought tyranny. But the modern American left, they marched against the military, against the very institution that gives them the freedom to protest. And so while they were calling President Trump a dictator, the real dictators in Tehran, they were busy trying to blow him off the map. So think about the twisted irony here, right? The people screaming Trump is acting like a king, they're protected by the army that he commands, the same army that foreign tyrants fear, the same army that Iran wants to avoid in full conflict, and the same army that Trump just praised, and the same army that the left just insulted. That's not just irony, guys. That is national level cognitive dissonance. And it's dangerous when you think about it, right? Because when the actual assassins are plotting and the protesters are marching against the one man standing in their way, they're not protesting authoritarianism, you're assisting it. But it gets even worse than that, because you would think a revelation like Iran tried to kill President Trump twice would spark bipartisan outrage, right? You would think CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, and all the usual suspects would be wall-to-wall coverage, right? Wrong. So I'm going to show you guys how the corporate media buried this story, how pundits on the left joked about it, how the same people who scream about threats to democracy are now cheering when Trump's life is on the line. So let's walk through this, shall we? You now have the truth. Iran, America's sworn enemy, tried to assassinate President Trump twice. That confirmation came from an allied head of state in the middle of an active war zone. So this should be the biggest headline on the planet. And yet, you didn't see a CNN town hall on it. You didn't see a somber MSNBC panel with constitutional scholars there. No emergency press briefings. No, this is not normal articles from the Washington Post. They barely even mentioned it. Now, imagine for a second, right? Imagine this happened to Obama. If Iran plotted to assassinate Barack Obama even once, there would be candlelight vigils on college campuses, Netflix documentaries, speeches in front of the UN, and cries for global justice. But because it was Trump, nothing. The media ran interference for the regime that tried to kill the president of the United States. And why? Because admitting the truth would destroy their narrative, that Trump is a threat to democracy, that he's an aggressor, that foreign hostility toward him is his fault. If the public sees Trump as a target of terrorism, not the cause, then the whole narrative collapses. So they stay silent about it. You see? But some didn't stay silent. Some on the left actually spoke up, and what they said was even worse. You had verified users on social media, journalists, influencers, activists making jokes about the assassination attempts, mocking Trump's security, sharing memes with karma written over drone footage. They laughed. The same people who screamed about mean tweets, who held press conferences over hurt feelings, who declared January 6th the new 9/11, they were giggling at the idea of a US president getting blown up by a foreign regime. You see the pattern here, guys? If you're on the left, your safety is sacred. If you're on the right, your death is fair game. And in Trump's case, well, they didn't just ignore the danger, they encouraged it. So this isn't just hypocrisy. This isn't just bias. This is a sickness, guys. This is a deep institutional rot that sees America's enemies as misunderstood victims and America's defenders as the real threat. And so when a sitting president becomes the target of foreign assassination attempts and half the country yawns, laughs, or even cheers, I think we've crossed the line. But this isn't just about Trump anymore, guys. This is about what's happening to our flag, our soldiers, our national memory. Because while Iron Dome intersects real missiles over Tel Aviv, protesters in DC were melting down over fireworks and flyovers. So if you thought that the betrayal was bad before, just wait until you see what they've done to the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army. So let's recap real quick, right? So a sitting U.S. president was targeted for assassination by Iran. The media ignored it. The activist left laughed at it. And while Trump was dodging foreign plots, the U.S. Army was celebrating its 250th birthday, the very institution that defends our nation from tyrants like Iran. But instead of celebrating, the usual suspects on the left turned that into a scandal too. Let me paint the picture for you, shall we? So the National Mall, the Washington Monument lit up in red, white, and blue. Helicopters overhead, veterans honored, service members from every era, from revolution to Iraq, being recognized for their sacrifice. It was a moment of pride, a tribute to 250 years of American freedom, valor, and strength. And what did leftist media call it? Militaristic, authoritarian, dangerous propaganda, a king's parade. And some even use the word fascism. It's all because President Trump chose to honor the troops who protected this country from actual kings, dictators, and foreign murderers. It wasn't a campaign rally. It wasn't political theater. It was a reminder of what America used to celebrate together, regardless of party. But under Trump, everything is hate bait. Everything is twisted. The United States Army is no longer treated as a unifying force. It's treated as a tool of tyranny by the very same people who live safely under its shield. So now I want to contrast this with what was happening overseas at the exact same moment. While fireworks exploded harmlessly over Washington, D.C., real missiles were falling on Tel Aviv. Families in Israel were huddled in shelters. The Iron Dome was lighting up the sky, the night sky, intercepting Iranian rocket barrages. That's not symbolism. That's war. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., protesters are literally screaming that Trump's fireworks were too aggressive, that irony burned. This is like an exaggerated level of irony at this point, isn't it? I mean, let this burn into your mind, right? You got explosions of freedom in Washington, D.C. deemed offensive, but you have explosions of terror in Israel barely mentioned. That's how far removed from reality these people really are. They're so obsessed with the idea that Trump is a king that they can't tell the difference between a parade and an airstrike. But if you think that this is just ignorance, it's not. This isn't just cluelessness from spoiled activists who skipped history class. This is a war of values, a war between those who still believe in liberty, duty, and trust, and truth, and those who are willing to cheer foreign assassins just before they hate the man in the Oval Office. So let's go ahead and pull everything together, because this isn't just about Trump. It's not just about Netanyahu. It's not even just about the No Kings protest or the media spin or the military parade smear campaign. This is about what kind of country that we're becoming and whether we're going to survive the war of values that's already here and already tearing apart. Netanyahu, he laid it out plainly. Iran is not backing down. They're not de-escalating, and they're not playing by the rules. They're definitely developing some nuclear weapons, and not just for deterrence. They're building a delivery system, ballistic missiles capable of striking the eastern seaboard of the United States. Yes, you heard that right, guys. Their goal, 10,000 ballistic missiles within 3 years. Intercontinental reach, nuclear payloads, Tehran to Tel Aviv, already possible. Tehran to Washington, D.C. coming soon. You see? And while the Biden administration, thank God, is gone, the Iranian regime isn't. They know Trump won't tolerate it. They know he'll strike first. And they know he's not afraid to say no and mean it. And so this is why he's targeted. This is why Netanyahu said it had to be stopped. That's why the world is watching Trump like a final firewall between barbarianism and civilization. So I want to leave you guys with this. If America's enemies abroad see Trump as a king to be assassinated, and Americans at home see him as a tyrant to be protested, then who's the lost plot here, right? Like, the founders built this nation to reject kings, yes? But they didn't reject strength. They didn't reject valor or defense or moral clarity. They just, and they sure as hell didn't light fireworks over tyranny just to watch the next generation light protests over patriotism, right? The man being hunted by foreign terrorists isn't the villain. The army that defends your right to be able to march in the streets is not the problem. The flag flying over 250 years of freedom isn't the threat. The real threat is when your own country cheers as your president gets targeted by enemies overseas. If we don't snap out of this crap now and fast, the next time that missiles fly, they won't be landing in Tel Aviv. They'll be falling on cities that once thought that they were immune because they're too busy hating the man trying to protect. So if you're watching this and you still believe in truth, strength, and freedom, then stand with the man who took the hits and kept fighting. Stand with the soldiers who never stopped defending you, even when you weren't defending them. Stand with those soldiers. Oh, and stand with a country that still remembers why we don't have kings. Because we have warriors instead, which are better. And today, we still do. So, like, comment, share this video with someone who forgot the difference between a king and a leader. I'll see you guys next time.